There is a quite obvious conclusion to be drawn from the release Thursday of the Mueller report, namely, that the entire investigation undertaken by Special Counsel Robert Mueller over the allegation that President Trump's campaign was in cahoots with the Russians and therefore engaged in treason was a made-up ruse for the purpose of weaponizing the government against the candidate of an opposition party. Mueller found no evidence not just of collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign, but between Russia and any American citizens. The report did uncover evidence of meddling by Russia in the 2016 election, which was anything but surprising. There has been Russian meddling in American elections since the Russian Revolution of 1917. But after almost 2 years and millions of dollars spent, the lack of any substance behind the Trump-Russia meme the Democrat Party has staked its political future on should shock every American to the core. We now know that the Obama administration engaged in an abuse of power which makes Watergate look like a third-rate burglary. It colluded with Hillary Clinton's campaign to use paid-for opposition research the latter knew or at least highly suspected was a pack of lies to fraudulently obtain FISA warrants to spy on guiltless American citizens, and it participated in a counterintelligence frame-up to provide a pretext for prosecuting an unwitting Trump advisor named George Papadopoulos, who was fed a rumor that Russia had Clinton's emails and ultimately spent 14 days in jail after being caught in a perjury trap over his having regurgitated the rumor to another party. It's not an overreaction to see this horrific and dastardly abuse of power as the most dangerous scandal in American history. Watergate, Teapot Dome, Iran-Contra, none of them cut so deeply into the framework of our constitutional traditions with so much corruption at the highest levels. It is this recognition which should dominate the reaction to the Mueller report. Not just that it found no evidence of collusion but the abusive attempt at a frame-up lying under the entire investigation, which is now laid bare for anyone willing to see it, and yet the never-Trump faction within the Republican Party refuses to recognize the frightening corruption of the Obama-Clinton axis. It's now impossible to ignore. On Friday, Mitt Romney, the junior senator from Utah and the failed 2012 GOP presidential nominee, issued forth his reaction to the Mueller report. It is good news that there was insufficient evidence to charge the President of the United States with having conspired with a foreign adversary or with having obstructed justice. The alternative would have taken us through a wrenching process with the potential for constitutional crisis. The business of government can move on. Even so, I am sickened at the extent and pervasiveness of dishonesty and misdirection by individuals in the highest office of the land, including the President. I am also appalled that, among other things, fellow citizens working in a campaign for President welcomed help from Russian, including information that had been illegally obtained, that none of them acted to inform American law enforcement, and that the campaign chairman was actively promoting Russian interests in Ukraine. Reading the report is a sobering revelation of how far we have strayed from the aspirations and principles of the founders. Hogwash and balderdash, with decency preventing a more descriptive term to describe Romney's perfidious scoldings of a Republican president. Yes, the Mueller report contains lots of embarrassing stories about Trump's reactions to the Russian collusion frame-up as it was presented to him, and yes, those stories indicate a president driven half-mad over the lengths his political adversaries would go in an effort to destroy his presidency. For Romney to focus on those breaks from decorum, actions which did not follow from Trump's intemperate words thanks to the success of his staffers in keeping him in check, rather than the true nature of the Trump-Russia hoax shows that he's learned nothing in political life. He's intentionally missing the forest for the trees, and this after he was beaten by a political movement and an administration which shamelessly slandered him as a racist and despiser of the poor. You would think Romney would have commiserated with Trump over the treatment both shared at the hands of the Obama cabal. But no. And Romney's friend William Weld, who like Romney was a mediocre Republican Massachusetts governor with a poor record as a candidate for federal office, Weld was the vice presidential candidate of the Libertarian Party in 2016, a ticket faring a whole lot worse than Romney's GOP slate in 2012, followed up Mitt's ankle-biting of Trump with his own attack on the president's poor form. Weld took to MSNBC and in true pet conservative fashion called Trump a one-man crime wave, something more in keeping with his status as a wannabe primary challenger with no more chance to become president than he had as Gary Johnson's sidekick 3 years ago. Republicans are the party of people who want politics to play a smaller role in our lives. But that doesn't excuse having such panty-waists and losers carrying its standard. If Romney and Weld can't defend a Republican president, even one as crude as Trump with his Irish up, under such vicious and abusive attack from the Obama administration and the deep state, then they deserve not a